Um, she's
Well,
written a book on
hi
indoor
everybody, and welcome to
plant.
our webinar. If everyone could mute themselves, that'd be great, and we'll get started with Tammy. Tammy is joining us to talk to us about house plants, and particularly to celebrate the publication of her book, The Plant Book, which came out last year. So congratulations on that, Tammy. I'm sure it's been very successful, and hopefully, if people haven't seen that book, they'll be inspired to find it or try and get a review copy or something going over the next few weeks. So, Tammy, I might just, without any further ado, hand it over to you to introduce your talk. And as you know, we're recording it, so it'll be available to see on the HMAA website very soon. Thank you, Tammy.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jennifer. Let me just share my screen and make sure I am sharing the right one. Thank you for having me this morning as I chat about indoor plants. And it's really just a brief, I suppose, overview about the popularity of plants, some new products, and then getting into my book. Feel free to jump in with questions if you have, or put it in the chat, whatever's easier, or we can have a chat at the end. I didn't know what to call this presentation, so I just called it my business name because I felt it was just apt, sort of describes everything that we're going to cover. So starting off is the popularity of indoor plants. So I don't know if many of you remember, I mean, we're all, I think, scarred from COVID, but I do remember COVID as a time where the plant sales boomed. We heard record numbers from garden life industry, but it actually did start just before COVID. And there was a lot of social media, a lot of Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of, I guess, inspiration coming from those sources, which really drove this social media craze for indoor plants. And because that really targets, millennials and Gen Zs and people, and they were, they're buying or renting homes or apartments that are a lot smaller. So they will bring lots of indoor plants in. So there was already a steady growth in, I guess, the years leading up to COVID. But really, when COVID obviously happened, lockdown, people have got lots of disposable income. Indoor plant sales grew from roughly 9% to 13% of sales. And to say, plants were worth, like the indoor plant industry, or at least plants anyway, were, worth about 2.6 billion. Like it's just mind blowing. So I just thought I'd share those stats with you, or just to say, indoor plants have been around, and then they obviously had time in the spotlight, and they still do, but it has sort of tapered off a little bit. And this is just a little snapshot of the things that did happen around, and it still is occurring at now. But you had Facebook groups like the Crazy Indoor Plant People Australia. They started off with 66,000 members just in 2019, and now this was just a snapshot taken yesterday. Over 150,000 members, and they're quite active too. Members in that community, just asking indoor plant questions. And that's where I got actually a lot of I guess, a lot of research in that group, because just delving into what people, are always asking, and always find that people are still struggling with, what plant is this, or what is wrong with my plant. That's the key thing. But it just goes to show, like, there's great interest in indoor plants. And then we also had the opening of dedicated plant stores. So it wasn't just, your nursery or hardware/nursery center. It was dedicated plant stores. So there were places like, I think there was Plant Smith, or still Plant Smith in Melbourne, Green Beans, well, it's Growing Grounds, lots of dedicated plant stores, and also online stores as well. So, I mean, they really were just riding the wave, and why wouldn't you? Like, it was such a good time. And I do also recall, I think it was in 2019, that the Jungle Collective started, and they were running pop-up plant events throughout, nationally, and they made it fun. And they would encourage people to dress up in their favorite. I think it was what are those pajama things called? I can't remember, but like
Onesie.
yeah, onesies, like your favorite onesie or plant inspired onesie, and you'd get like a $5 discount on your plants or something like that. But it really, just tapped into the whole social media craze, and people were loving it. And you can see the age of most of these people, all millennials and Gen Zs, who were just flocking to buy plants, like, which is crazy, but amazing, that they were able to do that. And then COVID happened, and then these parties had to stop. So while, I love this graph because it just shows you how much the nursery industry did benefit from that. And you can see COVID helped a lot. And then it sort of I guess, crashed, or you could say tapered off. And it was just, these are numbers we're unlikely ever going to see again, because, combined with disposable income, people staying at home and spending their money on plants, now people have, well, I guess, maybe less of that disposable income, because a lot of it is going to rent and then just the cost of living. So it has tapered off a bit, but still, I mean, plants are still, I think, top of people's minds. We're still seeing people purchase plants. It's just obviously declined, and even I guess the growers have felt that too. So indoor plant production has also declined, and these are all stats from the Garden Life, Green Life industry. So I haven't just made them up, but yeah, it was just goes to show that popularity is still there, and I think it will still be around, but we're obviously never going to see record sales like we did in COVID, because now people obviously have money to spend elsewhere, or time to spend it elsewhere as well. And I thought this was a fun slide, because I vividly recall certain plants really taking off during this indoor plant craze. And I like to think the fiddly fig really just launched the indoor plant world back to where it was, because I think people saw it in magazines and they saw this giant rainforest-like tree that they could actually have in their homes. And then many people killed them because they didn't realize the amount of care they needed. But people still kept trying again, and it's still very popular today. I still get questions about the fiddly fig, but it's just it was a good one. And then the Palea, the money plants. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I also got suckered into this because I remember it was $60 for this tiny plant, because I had to have it, because it was almost like a Pokemon thing where you got to go and catch them all, collect them all. And now, I mean, you can buy it at quite established plant like $10, $15. So it's just crazy to see the prices, that thankfully they have come down, so they're a lot more accessible to everyone. But yeah, just the prices of some of these plants. And then oxalis, this was a big one. And I remember being, I think, at the Collectors Plant Fair in, I think, maybe 2019. And I think there was a couple of growers who had this, and people were just they were flocking to try and get it. And, only obviously a handful available, but it's still very pretty and very popular now. But just, I remember at that time it was, yeah, quite a big thing as well. And then we get into the aroids. So things like variegated monsteras, the philodendrons, and the rarer philodendrons like this Philodendron illmanii. And I like to bring this one up because I actually know of a friend who was able to sell a 1-node cutting of Philodendron illmanii, and during the craze where people were like, you know what, I want all these plants, she sold it for about $3,000. And she was able to buy another greenhouse to then propagate more plants and continue to sell. But it was crazy. So backyard sellers were also getting on in this, because people were just like, I want plants, I've got money, I want to spend it. So I want them all. And then same with like the philodendrons, the rarer the better. And a lot of backyard growers in far north Queensland benefited from, I guess, people wanting all these plants. And I know this because I was there a couple of years ago, and people had told me just the amount of dollars people spent on these plants. Some were able to pay off their mortgage, some bought themselves a new car. It was unheard of and just crazy, the amounts of dollars people were happy to spend on plants. And sorry, I shouldn't just even say plants, they were cuttings. Some were just, 1 or 2 node cuttings, and, people were happy to part with, whether it was $50, $100, $1,000, it was crazy. And then this one, the variegated monstera, thankfully has come down in price. I think you can now get them for probably maybe $100 or less, but before you'd be paying easily $300-400 just for a single node. And so I thought, yeah, that the aroid craze was funny, and it was great that so many people were able to, I guess, benefit from that, and then they were able to better their lives as a result. But yeah, wild the amount of money that people were happy to spend on plants. And now these are just plants that I see that are still trending. Are still trending or have started to trend. So the giant bird of paradise, I think people are drawn to it for its large, lush leaves. The Calathea orbifolia, or I don't even know how to pronounce the new genus of Calathea, but it's still known as still sold as calatheas. Lots of people still gravitate towards them just because of their gorgeous patterns. And I think the orbifolia is a bit, I guess, because it's a bit more demanding in terms of care, in terms of humidity, people still gravitate towards that and they really want to grow this one, especially to this size, but they always struggle and it dies and they go and buy another one. The variegated monstera, I think, is still having its moments, and same with other variegated plants. Like this is Philodendron Rio, which just has different little splashes on it. And I think it keeps these plants interesting by having all these new cultivars that are variegated. Fiddly fig still enduring its popularity. And then this one, the olive plant, has become, I don't know why, or obviously someone has put it in a magazine somewhere saying grow olives inside. And I think people love the Mediterranean look. They're just like, the silvery leaves, but yeah, it's not a trend that I'm promoting. It's just one that I wanted to highlight that I have seen. And I know people, and it's not something that, and people do actually believe it because I've had people asking questions about, okay, how can I grow my olive inside? So just don't. If you're going to have an olive tree inside, you could probably bring it in temporarily, just if you're having, I don't know, a Mediterranean style party or something, but not something that you want to keep indoors. And these are just a couple of new products that I have seen. These aren't sponsored or anything in any way. It's just things that I thought were pretty cool. If you've been around hydroponic growing and you know what grow lights are, most of them are fairly ugly. They're just these industrial looking lights, and now there's a lot more sleeker options for you to have them indoors, or your indoor plants. There's ones that are dedicated, just one single lamp for a single plant, or you can get these light bars which have a much more wider spread that can then be used for several plants. Although this isn't the best example because the succulents are elongated, so ignore that part, but at least the Monstera is doing well. And this was, I thought, pretty cool. Just another way to display indoor plants, because I know a lot of people put like rails up against or they use the curtain rod rail to hang their plants, but this was just another way to display them. So it's a tension rod and it's got little stands that you can just, make the use of the vertical space. And then Fiskars have also, I saw, gotten into the indoor plant game, and they've just brought out very stylish tools and a caddy holder for them. And I know a lot of social media, what is it? What am I saying? Millennials and Gen Z will gravitate towards is just because of the look of them. So I know they're very aesthetic based, and so I think it's a very smart move, I think, by Fiskars to bring something like this out, because people would be quite happy to have things like this displayed on their shelves next to their plants. So it's just something that looks cool. And then my book. So I recently brought out this book. It was published at the end of last year, November, but it was, I think, about almost a year up until then that we were working on this. So I was writing this, and I like to tell this story because I was writing this while I was pregnant. So baby brain definitely rampant throughout this book. And then I had to edit this book when I was 6 weeks postpartum. So sleep deprivation coupled with baby brain, coupled with whatever, but still we managed to bring out this product, but I had a great team behind me, obviously, who were able to help with that. But very proud of this book because, each one of these photos we took in individual locations where they weren't stock imagery. We wanted to make sure that we highlighted the heroes where they might be shown or where they might be displayed in a home. So that's why we went and did that. And another part, I guess, of this book that I'm super proud of is that we have a flow chart that helps people hopefully troubleshoot their problems and solve them as well. Because I often find, a lot of plant books or a lot of reference books, will say, you might have mealybugs or you might have aphids, and the average punter is going to be like, well, what's a mealybug? What's an aphid? I don't know. I want to know. If I look at my plant, I know it's yellow. I know it's sticky. I can see some cotton fluff. Like I wanted to use those sort of, I guess, that sort of language to ensure that it was accessible to everyone, and that you didn't need to read the whole book to be able to then understand, what's going on with your plant. You could just turn to it as a reference book. So while it's a pretty book, I wanted it to be practical as well. But yeah, I think that was it. So sorry, I think I just sort of raced through that presentation. But if you have any questions about indoor plants, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Tammy. That was great. Actually, you raced through, but you're incredibly gifted, I think, in the way you can share your enthusiasm with everybody. So thank you very, very much. Now, if people would like to unmute themselves and put themselves on video too, and perhaps ask some questions and get some discussion going, because you raised some interesting points. I mean, the whole thing about people wanting to grow olive trees inside, for example, and people wanting to grow things like succulents inside where they just don't have enough light. And as you pointed out, one of the sort of elongation there, and then all the diseases and pests that. Well, I mean, if a nursery people should be delighted that people are willing to throw away plants and start again, because I think that's different from an older generation. I mean, people tend to want to nurture and make their plants better in the past. So that's an interesting thing too. But, rather than me go on, perhaps there's some questions from everybody else as well. Who wants to set the ball rolling?
So what have you had real success with, Tammy, yourself, personally?
Real success with, well, so far my variegated monsteras are still thriving, thankfully. And I mean, I say that now because everything of my indoor plants are all sitting outside under a patio at the moment, because that's all that I haven't had time to sort of really tend to them since Ayla arrived. Because, we moved here and then a few months later had Ayla, and I just thought I'd had so much time in the world to do gardening and everything else. And I learned the hard way. But no, I think, variegated monsteras have done well. What else? Oxalis is still going strong. The more demanding philodendrons and anthuriums I have lost, unfortunately. A couple were gifts, some were very expensive purchases, and it's just, I couldn't provide the level of care they needed, which was the constant humidity, or at least higher humidity than my other plants, and then the light as well. I couldn't, there were some times where I just, didn't bother with the grow light. So it happens, unfortunately. Expensive lessons.
Life gets in the way, as you say. So, but are they still having those big indoor plant fair things that you
I know collectors, for example, I know they're not running this year, but I know there's still the Aroid Society of Australia. They're having I think it's a Floresta. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they have a market that they've been running, I think, for the last couple of years, and has been traveling. I think Sydney is going to be on the map this year for them. So there are still plant, I guess, fairs going on, and still lots of lots of plant groups, Facebook groups that are buying, swapping, selling. I don't find them as big as before, because a lot of plants were rarer, but then the introduction of tissue culture has then brought a lot of those aroids, which I forgot to say, a lot of those aroid prices down. So, people were, buying for, a philodendron ring of fire, which, someone up in far north Queensland could sell to you, but then it got tissue cultured, and now instead of being worth $300, it's now worth $50.
Yes, like the moth orchid story, isn't it? I always say, you used to have to ransom your eldest child, and now you can get them for $10 at the checkout. And so with the whole advent of tissue culture, or expanding of tissue culture. So comments, questions? What have you had success with?
Helen? I've got a question to Tammy. I just was interested in what you think about growing with leca.
Oh, yes. No, I do like that. I did try growing with leca, and I mean, it's just, I couldn't be bothered converting all my plants to it, because it's just another big process. But I know a lot of people have had success with it. But I
have no idea what you're talking about.
leca is this, it's lightweight expanded clay bores. So instead of growing in potting mix, you grow in this, it's typically a hydroponic media, but they're clay bores, and then you give the plants, hydroponic solution. And there are different ways to grow it as well. You can submerge pots in it, or you can half submerge, or I don't know, there's different ways of hydroculture that you can use with leca bores. But I've grown with it, and I certainly have had lots of people had success with it as well.
So I won't say old colleague Catherine Stewart, our previous colleague Catherine Stewart swears by it, and she's actually transferred all of her indoor plants over to it, and just said, I mean, there are some exceptions, aroids do particularly well in it, but I'm looking at doing it with mine, because she said But she had lots of plants, and she said it brought the maintenance level down hugely.
Yes.
Water as frequently. So you can do it like in a pot with a saucer, like replacing potting mix, or you can actually do it, Judy, as a like a water well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how do you spell it?
LECA is the acronym.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just light expanded clay aggregate.
Aggregate. That's it. Aggregate. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So
it would get rid of fungal gnats, you'd think.
Yes. Yes. And I think a lot of people did go to that because it was getting rid of fungal gnats and also just issues with overwatering or poor drainage.
That's great.
And there's a book on it. The plant parenting for busy people. The Lekker Queen, as she calls herself on Instagram, Nora is her name. She published a book late last year about it, and she shows you how to convert plants because she swears by it as well. And she's had great success, and she grows quite large plants in it too. I think she has a fiddly fig growing in one, and a Calathea albifolia that's thriving as well. So it's definitely a proven method.
All the technical stuff.
And it saves that awful overwatering.
Well, I have dreams of transferring my plants to it too, but I just still haven't had time.
Yeah, no, it's a big effort.
To do the changeover.
Because you have to, you have to remove all the potting mix from your plants or the roots of your plants before then changing it over.
Wash them.
Yep.
Wash them all off and then put them in. Yes. So, but still, it's certainly I've not had fantastic success with indoor plants, and I think it's because I always overwater them and can't be bothered putting proper drainage in, etc. Got better because I've now got a position that gets really good light, and boy, that's a big secret to success, isn't it?
Yep.
Plants love my house, but there's actually up this way, I live on the far north coast of New South Wales now. And just down the road from me, there's a huge big tree, and there's a giant yellow variegated monstera growing all the way up the tree. And it has trails coming down, and I just can go along and just
nick a trail.
I'm thinking that, it might be my pension business.
Better get on it quick.
It's a new sort of trail mix, is it? Sorry, bad joke.
But it's a yellow variegated one, not a white variegation.
Which is still considered rarer because it's, and they haven't tissue cultured that one yet. They've only done the white form, which is just the Thai constellation, but they haven't made a stable form of the Albo variegata, which is with the more splashy splotches. But yeah, the same with the yellow one. So I'd go and definitely take a few cuttings, Helen.
Get onto it, Helen. Perhaps we can raise funds for HMAA by doing cuttings of indoor plants, Judy. Tony Salter's got some comments on the chat line. She says her plants thrive on neglect and a bit of Osmocote once a year and a trim. Thanks for that, Tony. Yeah.
I was going to say, I solved my problem with indoor plants in that mine are now all outdoor plants because I've got a lot of dappled shade, and I would have hundreds and hundreds, a lot of, some of the ones you showed. But that's how I cope with them now. And they're getting a lovely drop of rain today. Had 15 mils, which is nice. But yeah, because I found inside it was that problem of too much, too little, etc. And now I just keep them outside, and
they're much happier.
Unfortunately, you have to live in a frost-free area to do that year-round, don't you?
And not in an apartment like most people nowadays live in.
Yes, I guess I don't fit that. What are they? Zen G and all that kind of stuff.
You're a baby boomer, George.
Yes, that's right.
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah,
go for it.
With the Pilia peperomios, I remember back then when it was super rare.
Yes.
And that when I was overseas, I was in Denmark. They were everywhere at the time, and I at that time I didn't see any in Australia. I'm just curious, how did it then suddenly pop up in Australia? Did we already have those plants somewhere? They weren't just commercialized yet, or was it did somebody have to import them and then there would be a really big quarantine process, or how
yeah, I remember talking to Jeremy from the Green Gallery, and because I remember he brought them to the collector's plant fair, and it wasn't really in Australia, or at least not commercially available, but everyone wanted them because of social media. And then I remember Jeremy, and I don't know if he's the first one to do it, but he certainly, I guess, was one of the first where he did import them, and they would have obviously had to go through quarantine. And then he would have had to then propagate them to then, produce en masse to be able to then sell. But I guess before that, people may have had this plant just sitting in their either home or their backyard, and then if they knew about it, then they may have started propagating. But I think it did take some time before it got here, and then that's why I guess people were able to have prices like $60 for a tiny little seedling or tiny little plant. Before then it dropped down to now $15 for a mature plant.
Oh, so he had to import them. I thought it was like a really like multi-year long process.
I think I don't know how necessarily long it can be. I know it can be long, because I think it has to sit in quarantine for at least 3 months. Before, but I think so. But even before then, I think I know there's lots of paperwork, but obviously those people are, they're quite, they regularly import plants for sale or for sale, so they would be in profit.
Tissue culture.
Yeah, it could have come in through tissue culture, and I know a lot of the companies here now are doing deals with European growers, and the tissue culture is coming through Vietnam and places like that, and then coming into Australia. So Balls Australia has just done that. They've got a new company called All Plants Australia, I think, which is going to be doing tissue culture, I think mainly of flowering plants, but probably indoor plants too, to bring them more quickly. But they're coming through Vietnam into Australia.
Oh, interesting. Is there another question, is there anything that you've seen exciting overseas that we don't have yet in Australia that you hope to see in the near future?
The next big thing.
The next big thing. I mean, that's why I sort of struggled with. I didn't do new varieties because I haven't seen. I've seen lots of new philodendrons pop up, but I don't know how, I guess, new or exciting they are, or whether they've been around and I just haven't seen them. I mean, a couple of years ago, if you asked me, I would have said, lots of things. Before there were tissue culture, I know there was philodendron Ring of Fire. It had like this just gorgeous colorway. But no, I haven't really seen anything yet. I probably am not the most up to date with social media on what's new plants are, but I haven't really seen lots of new plants available at the moment.
Who was that fellow who specialised in introducing the new and rarer ones? And he had a range.
Is that Enliven plants? Is that them?
Say again.
Enliven?
Yes.
Yes, they did a lot of tissue. I think all their range is tissue culture. They brought in heaps, but I do see them around a lot.
He was always releasing on Facebook and stuff his latest ones, or this one coming soon. But I've got an idea he moved on. Did he?
Yeah, same. I don't know to where, but yeah, I feel like it was maybe a couple of years ago now that he did.
Yeah,
so that's why I've sort of seen it taper off. But the plants are still around.
Yeah. Well, he was actually selling his top range through Bunnings, even though they were very expensive. So Bunnings had this small section of them. It'd be, a minimum of $50 each. They actually got into that, catering to that connoisseurs, collectors market. But I don't know what's happened to it.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen either.
I think it's what you need to do really is go back about 20 or 30 years and then see, because I can remember back in the 80s when I was working in nurseries, fiddle leaf figs were really big time then, and then they sort of went out of fashion. See, I tell you what will come back in, remember the lucky bamboo?
That's still around, yes.
So, give it another 10 years and they'll be back. So
they're always big around Lunar New Year because they twist them into these weird, shapes that mean all lucky things. So I think they're always going to be around.
Probably, yes. I didn't think about that. I just remember they were everywhere, like not just the Lunar New Year thing, but but that's I really thought. So you just got to sort of look for what's been missing for a while, and hope that you pick the right thing. But then the trouble is you can pick the wrong thing and then do your dough. Or your
just Googled and Enliven still exists.
Okay.
Site, and they've got new plant drops 7 o'clock tonight. And I think it looks like it's all online.
Yeah, that was something that I wondered about too, because you were talking about the backyard growers. Of course, I wouldn't have thought they'd have been captured by the Green Life Australia's research.
They probably weren't. I think there was probably a lot more money and plant sales that weren't, because they're not registered nurseries.
Yeah.
They're just people who sold on eBay.
That's right. So they wouldn't have been probably captured. It might be worth asking them if they did think about trying to capture some of those sales.
Yeah, no, it was wild when I went up there. I think it was a couple of years ago now, maybe 23 or 22. Just I saw someone had bought themselves a Land Cruiser, and the number plate was in gold.
Wow. It's like the
And
Wild West. Eh?
yeah,
Wild North.
and they had told me like someone was able to purchase another car, and it was all souped up. And one person was able to pay off their mortgage and buy another lot. So I don't know how much money that was there, but I know there was a lot. I mean, if someone was able to sell one node cutting for $3,000, those guys would have been sitting on a gold mine for sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, good luck to them, I guess.
Yeah.
So any more comments or questions from our audience?
I just wanted to comment on Judy's question about the tracking of the backyard sales. I know we've tried to do it for but every so often we've done a bit of a desktop study for citrus, and it's really hard because all you can really do is track the ads.
Yes.
So you can track what people are advertising, but not necessarily the sales. And I think the nursery industry's tried, but it's really, really tricky.
Yeah. And I guess we're laughing about it because people are making money, but the real problem is if there's any diseases, pests that are being passed around because of this backyard trading, that there's been a huge increase in the number of pests and diseases throughout Australia in the last 5 years. So it could be that there's a downside to it as well.
Well, I saw recently that I think all sellers in Melbourne, they can't now send out of Melbourne because of the TPP, the tomato psyllid, and they have to be then, they have to go through some sort of quarantine process. Certified, that's it. And I imagine a lot of backyard growers aren't going to know that. Some do because they're across it, but then some aren't going to know, and they're just going to continue sending plants.
Yes.
Like people getting stuff sent in from overseas, isn't it?
Yeah, well, which they should do. Yes.
All right.
Good. Well, Judy, do you want to say thank you?
Yeah, I will say thank you. I will say fantastic. Thank you so much. And also, thank you, partner, for looking after us. So, yeah, it was just wonderful. Tammy, congratulations on the book. Hope the sales keep zooming on. So,
well, we've got a second reprint, so that's a good thing. And yes, if anyone does want a review copy, hopefully they are still available. But please get in touch, and then I can put you in touch with the publicist to get a copy. Yeah.
So, Tammy, and what else are you still doing now amongst all your other juggling?
Just trying to be a mum and trying to do I'm still doing Gardening Australia, filming with them, which has been good. And then just writing here and there when I can. I've had to
anything regular like Bunnings or
I still do Bunnings, like they're just little things. So because I haven't really taken a lot of features because it just takes so much time, and all the time I thought I'd have when she could sleep or something, and so I've had to get cut back on a lot of that because I just don't have the mental capacity to do it.
So you're not doing house and garden?
Yeah, so house and garden's changed a bit. They've brought on a new they've got a landscaper now who's doing the column. I changed from, I think it was, I can't remember his name, but it was Steve Cordoni's partner until they, I think they sold up their home, and then now it's changed over to a landscaper, and the editor's changed recently as well. But yeah, I haven't written for House and Garden for a while. I think the only regular things are Domain and Bunnings, and occasionally a Gardening Australia.
Still, that would keep you busy all the same.
Yeah.
So that constant deadlines
and they come up quickly.
Yeah, all right. Well, look, Tammy, we're very proud of you, the success that you've had and the influence that you're having, and you too, Connie. It's lovely seeing these younger people coming in and moving up, and So keep up the good work, keep up the inspiration, and congratulations for sort of hitting the hot button of what was popular at the time, you know, because your timing was just exquisite. And we will put our hands together and say, you can either do that like this, or you can
Thank
send
you.
one of those thingamy things up in the air. But you're busy, we know, so thank you very much for giving up your time for us. And everyone, don't forget that meeting next week, the special meeting for the money vote. Our future depends on it.
Yeah, I think we can move into indoor plant propagation of single node cuttings and save the day.
Pay for things that way, huh?
Yes.
We should.